Welcome back, my friends, to another episode of TFT Hyperroll with Artark. You know the drill, you know what I'm going to ask you to do. Like, comment, subscribe, do stuff to help the YouTube algorithm. And if it's your first time here, just start that way. And if you hate the video, you can always unlike, unsubscribe, and uncomment later. Yeah. And with that said, let's get started. Now, I know I have covered this build a lot throughout the beginning of this season, and that's because as far as builds go for climbing, I think this is the easiest one to climb with because it's the easiest to form and it's the easiest to keep going. And no, it's not going to be threats. I wish it was. I wish I could say that threats was the easiest because it's my favorite one to play, but it's not going that way. The hero augments will often make or break you, and here, this decides exactly what direction this build is going to go. When I see Kingslayer, it's not the greatest. Sylas is not a great carry. I consider re-rolling, but go ahead and take it because he can do a decent amount of damage from the front line if you stack his health up, because his damage is based on his health. And let me just show you real quick. As you can see with Sylas's ult, its damage is 12% of his maximum health. So the higher his health, the more damage he's going to be doing. And with this particular augment, he's going to be doing 40% more damage. So Sylas, he's not going to be a carry, but he will be an important part of this team. Now for early item choices, I am going to lean into the augments. So Giant Spell, which will increase health on Sylas, is definitely a choice I want to make, and just put that right on because any additional health is going to mean additional damage. And even though this build is ultimately about Jinx and Misfortune kind of working together towards the end, if you get a hero augment that has a specific trait attached to it or something you can play into, you do want to play into that, especially early on, or else you're going to likely find yourself playing from behind. And starting with wins is certainly easier than starting with losses. And again, I can't stress enough how much I like the way threats work in this season because you can fit them into pretty much any build to fill in for champs you're not necessarily getting at the time. I would have loved to have a Riven or Misfortune or a Vayne for the backline, but instead I was able to get a Vel'Koz, and that helped this fight go much easier. For the next item choice, I'm still playing into the hero augment, so when I get the chance for another Giant Spell, I'm going to go ahead and grab it and then put that onto Sylas to create the Warmogs. Now I've picked up the Riven, but there's no real need for me to put her in at this time. She's not going to take me up to the next level of Anima Squad. She's not going to tick any additional buffs such as Brawler, so she can sit on the bench for the moment and let Vel'Koz continue to stun things, which is what's going to help us get through this round. Now just before the NPC round, I picked up a Vayne, so I pulled Vel'Koz out and put Vayne and Riven in because that will bring me up to 5 Anima Squad. But then the augment said, you don't need an additional one, we'll just give it to you. So I can go ahead, grab the Jinx, pick up the one out of the shop, and then switch Vel'Koz back in for Vayne, and we're still at the 5 Anima Squads and getting the benefit that Vel'Koz brings to the team of the stunning. At 5 Anima Squad, we're getting the additional boost, which is making Sylas even stronger, and with his double items and the hero augment, he is really holding back the front line long enough to allow our backline to do the damage it needs. But Sylas is actually leading the damage charts. But again, as a one cost who's not going to scale like a Nasus stacks on stacks, we want to pick up items for the ones who will be our eventual carries, and that meant getting the needlessly large rod to go with the bow and create the Rage Blade on Jinx. We went ahead and finished off our Sylas build with a Dragon's Claw for a couple of reasons. Number one, we were getting a lot of Negatron Cloak, so it made a good use for it. Number two, Sylas's ult gives him a little bit of healing, so this is healing on top of healing and will hopefully allow the team to keep winning. Now I 2-starred the Vayne and probably should have put her in for Vel'Koz at this point, but I personally tend to have a little bit of a blind spot when it comes to the threat champions, as I see them as a little more powerful than they actually are, especially at 1 star. Luckily, this did not impact this particular round, but again, to do over again, I should have put in the 2-star Vayne instead of the Vel'Koz. For the final augment, I find it impossible possible to resist the portable forge. And while if I hadn't made the Dragon's Claw, I probably would have gone with the Visage for Sylas, the Gold Collector for Jinx is going to be great, because this will essentially end up creating 2 aces on the team. And I finally switched out the Vel'Koz for the Vayne. But this will create 2 aces. Misfortune will execute anyone below 12% health, and now so will Jinx. Since we've gotten our final individual item component, I grab the needlessly large rod and go ahead and make double rage blades on Jinx, since she will be executing, and I'm hoping that will allow her to do it faster and more efficiently. However, she gets knocked out of this, and it ends up being Sylas, who just hangs on with his tankiness and healing and is able to keep us on our win streak. I found a Misfortune in between rounds, which means next round we will be able to go up to the 7 Anima Squad and also have essentially double aces on the team, which should make it a lot easier to power through to the end. But for now, as you can see, the Jinx plan is working just perfectly with her leading the damage charts. Now we're turning everything over to Misfortune, and the keys are speed, mana, power. So Rage Blade is a really good item for her. We also are going to want some type of mana generation, hello Spear of Sojin, and then ultimately we will want to get additional power on her if possible, such as Jeweled Gauntlet or Rabadon's Death Cap. Now at this point with this setup, I feel like it just has to play out. We have double execution from the backline, we got Misfortune to 2 stars, we have the additional mana, we have everything we need to steamroll our way through the rest of these rounds and just knock people off one by one. In order for someone to be able to beat this, they have to be able to get close enough to Jinx and Misfortune and also withstand the fact that Jinx is a prankster and can escape and do more damage after she's hit. It's going to be very hard, and we've now made it into the top 4 without losing a single match. It is time for our final 2 items, and I'm really hoping for something like a Rabadon's Death Cap or Jeweled Gauntlet, but I go ahead here and grab the blue buff just in case the Anvil doesn't have anything that will work. And the Anvil didn't have anything that would work perfectly, so I go ahead, put the blue buff on Misfortune, and then give the Rage Blade over to Vayne to just add additional damage. Since I picked up a champion duplicator, it is time to create the gold 3-star Jinx. And right now I am thinking I'm just going to march easily through to victory and finish this off and claim Animaniacs is unbeatable. In fact, I was so cocky about it, I didn't even check in on the competition to see that they could put a Shroud of Stillness directly over Misfortune and Jinx, which is going to severely limit the initial damage we are going to be able to do. That allows this team to just CC us to death, and even though we have the 3 Pranksters now, they are easily able to dispatch us. So, perfect game, not exactly. It's now time to actually prepare, so we check in on the other team, and that is a little bit of a nightmare. The Renegade champions are going to gain power as they go, but I'm actually most concerned about the Soraka in the back. We can handle the Renegades because as they get low, we'll be able to execute them, but Soraka is going to be able to reach into our backline with that rapid fire cannon and cast often with that Spear of Sojin. She's also getting the Forecaster buff from Janna, so likely is going to be getting more powerful. Their front line is tanky and we're able to do a lot of damage, but not completely take them out. And as I said, Soraka does not have to move to keep doing damage, and I think we have a good shot, but nope, they land one as well, and this game went from being a cakewalk to I'm really concerned. Now the game just became a 1v1 because the other person was knocked out by a ghost champion. So it is about preparing for this Soraka, and it's really going to be if we can take her down fast enough, because she will be what's left at the end. I decide to split up Jinx and Misfortune so they can't both be hit if Viego ends up deciding to dive in. I need Jinx working on one side and Misfortune working on the other. They both have the ability to execute, and I'm counting on that to help win the match. They are both doing their jobs really well, although you can see that Misfortune is clinging to health, but still executing people. It comes down to Misfortune and Jinx versus their Janna and Soraka, and luckily Jinx gets off the stun and is able to execute and win the match. I know I've done Animaniacs a lot, and I will do it more. You can force this build and it will help you climb. As always, hope you have an absolutely awesome day.